Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jane Stevens. I'm the training manager here at Zolo, and today we are talking about leases. So let me just admit everybody into the room and we'll get started in a couple of seconds here. Good morning. Hi, Vishnu. Yes, please feel free to chat with me. This is way better if you guys talk to me. So do, comment in the chat. And if you'd like, you can even raise your hand and I will unmute you. We're going to talk about all things leases today. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I know a lot of this content is available for you online in our Zolo Academy. So I do want to just kind of talk about things high level, probably, a little bit further removed than I typically talk about things. And then we can jump into some situations and I'm happy to answer questions about, anything that might be coming up for you when you're dealing with lease leads. So let's get started here in a couple of minutes. Good morning. And hello. So before we do actually jump into today's content, I do just want to pull up a poll just so that I know who's joining me here today. So I'm going to launch a poll. If you guys don't mind just taking a few seconds to answer that, I'd love to hear from you as to when you received your license, when you got your license. Is it less than a year, 2 years, 3 years? If you're brand new to real estate, welcome. If you're brand new to Zolo, welcome to Zolo as well. So I'd love to hear from you if you have done any leases, and if you haven't, that's okay. That's what we're here to talk about today. So yeah, if you can just let me know in the poll. If you have worked with buyers, that's good for me to know as well. Sometimes it happens in reverse. I'll give you guys a little bit of a story. I do have actually an agent, and this happens often on my team. And she has her lease leads on, and she's brand new to real estate. And her very first deal actually ended up her converting that lease lead to a buyer. So her first transaction was actually a buyer transaction. So that is possible. That's what we're going to talk about here today, how to maybe spot those lease leads that might be ready to buy. So, those are always good stories to hear. So I do want to let you guys know while you're answering those poll questions that the training calendar is up for June. So we always do the new agent orientation Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays, we focus on the CRM. So really managing your leads, converting those leads to showings. And then what happens once they like something and you have to submit an offer. So on Wednesday, we talk about web forms, how to put your offer together. And then of course, Authenticsign as well. So if you're not super familiar with that, please join. Tomorrow, I will be working through an offer to lease. So if you haven't done your mock offer yet, which is required for you or for us to turn on your lease leads, please join me tomorrow. And if you'd like, you can even be the volunteer and I can walk you through how to actually do the offer to lease. So we also have a lineup on Tuesdays, leases, followed by working with buyers, working with sellers, customer service. We have our very popular Zolo Q&A at the end of the month as well. And then we have a lineup on Thursdays. Typically, I have a guest speaker join me. And Thursday, we'll be talking about some lead gen ideas. So if you're looking to double your business, right, you've got the leads coming in from Zolo. If you're looking to double your business and you're wondering how to do that, where to start, I like to recommend things that are free. So we're going to be talking about some free and maybe some inexpensive lead gen ideas. So definitely join me for that on Thursday. And again, if you are brand new to real estate, if you're brand new to Zolo, if your leads aren't even on yet, you might feel a little bit nervous about those initial phone calls. We will talk about them today, but I do just want you to know that we do have a call lab. So sign up for that. That is a 4-week program that you can attend, and you can literally role play and, just kind of feel more comfortable with that initial conversation. Okay. Whew, that was a lot. Let me see what you guys have answered in the poll. So I'll just end that now. Thanks you guys for answering. So it looks like half of you have been licensed for less than a year. So that's awesome. Again, welcome. And then it looks like I have a couple of you who less than 3 years, a couple of you less than 5 years, and I have 3 of you who have been licensed less than 10 years. So this is great. So a really mixed bag of experience here today. So yeah, seeing that half of you are new to real estate, it looks like half of you haven't done any lease leads or lease transactions yet. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Awesome. And it looks like a couple of you have worked with some buyers. So awesome. Thank you for answering that. It just kind of helps me know who my audience is. So I do want to point you in the right direction here. So when you do log into your CRM, you will find the Academy under your tools drop-down menu, and there's a bunch of information there. I do like to recommend going to the courses list view because that gives you all of the courses that are available in the Academy. So you can search really quickly for leases, and then you would see in there, offers to lease, inbound, outbound calls. You can listen to some examples of calls, what works, what doesn't. Up updating the CRM, of course, that's always an important piece because the Zolo bot rewards active agents with leads. So how do you set yourself up as an active agent? You have to update your activity in your CRM. It's as simple as that. So updating the CRM, there's some examples there of some emails. So we're going to talk about that today. I am going to share with you a couple of emails that I have tweaked. I always like to update things so that when you are joining these sessions, it's new information. All right. So just so you know that that's available to you guys in the online academy. So let's get started. I'm just going to make sure everybody's admitted to the room. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if you want to discuss any situations. But let's just get started here. At the very beginning. So I'm going to give you a couple of overview slides here. So again, I'm doing this a little bit differently today. So what we're really going to focus on is the initial conversation. So when you join Zolo, we have you do your mock offer to lease. So this training and your mock offer to lease, as soon as that has been approved, then we turn on your lease leads. So those come in fast and furious. Your CRM might be overwhelmed, might be overwhelming, but definitely reach out to your leads as quickly as you possibly can. And then you really want to engage with them. You want to have a conversation with them. And really the whole goal with that conversation is to find out if they're pre-qualified. So it's very different talking to a lease lead than a conversation with a buyer. A buyer, you just want to make sure that they're not working with a realtor and you can run out the door and show them properties, right? You want to start developing that relationship. With lease leads, because there are so many, and unfortunately there are so many who aren't qualified, you really want to make sure that you are working with qualified tenants, potential tenants. And so how do you do that? You need to ask some uncomfortable questions. If you don't come from like a financing background, it's a little bit awkward, at least for me. I remember, hesitating, asking for their credit score and what they were making. It seems like personal questions. So just have, these questions kind of practiced so that it's not such an uncomfortable conversation. So if you're not used to asking people what they make and what their credit score is, let's get comfortable with it. So really the way I like to introduce it in a conversation is whether or not they're familiar with the process, right? Are you familiar with leasing a property in Ontario, right? And it actually doesn't matter what they say. If they say yes, if they say no, it doesn't matter. That's my opening to ask them a few questions. If they say, yeah, absolutely, we've rented before, great. So you know that landlords are looking for X, Y, Z, right? So that's your opening to ask those questions. And what you're trying to gather is their credit score and their income. So I don't ask them straight up. I mean, I do, but I recommend, making it about the landlord wanting this information. So ask them, are you familiar with the process? Again, doesn't matter what they say. And then let them know the landlords are looking for a credit score of at least 650, in some cases 700 plus. Do you know what your credit score is? So ask the question and then be silent and wait for them to respond. People who are qualified will give you that information. They will say, not a problem. My partner and I both have credit scores well into the 700s. Great, right? You might want to have a conversation with them about downloading that credit report, just to confirm that that is in fact still their credit score. You don't want any surprises when you get to the offer stage. So talk to them about that, where they can go to get their credit score. If they don't know what their credit score is, again, you're pointing them in the right direction. There's a lot of free apps that they can download, such as Credit Karma, to find out what their credit score is. If they are providing that to you later on, just make sure that it does have their name, because sometimes when you're downloading the app and downloading the credit score on your phone, it gives you your score, but it doesn't say your name. So really important to make sure that the name is included. So you're having that initial conversation. Are you familiar with the process? Great. So landlords want to see a credit score of 650, 700. Do you know what your credit score is, right? So they provide that information. They say, yeah, no problem. We have a credit score of 700 plus. Perfect. So the landlord also wants to see that you can afford the amount of rent. It's great that you have a great credit score, but they also want to make sure that you can afford the rent. And a quick calculation, not set in stone, but a quick calculation is they want to see that your income is 3 times the amount of rent. So you can do some really quick math with them over the phone, because at Zolo, as you know, they're inquiring about a property. So you can see the property that they're interested in looking at, and you can see what it's available for. So if it's available for 2,500, you just simply multiply that by 3 and you ask them, can we show that you're making at least $7,500 a month? And that's gross. And that's all of your income, right? So, it can be a big number for some people. And you know what? A lot of people, that's going to be your determining factor, whether or not you can move forward and work with them. So multiply the rent by 3 and ask them. So again, it's not asking them, what are you making? Right? It seems a little bit, that's kind of an intrusive way to ask. So just have a style and come up with a better way of asking. So again, explaining that the landlords want to see that their income is 3 times the amount of rent. Can we show that on your application, right? It's the same thing. You're asking them what they're making. It's just a little bit gentler. So just ask them, can we show that on your rental application, and then get creative with them, right? Because this is when people are going to start disclosing information to you, right? Well, I make whatever it is, $1,000 a week. So, calculate that really quickly. Do you have, other sources of income? Is that net? Is that cash? Is that gross? So ask them questions, right? And really uncover what their total income is going to be. Not everybody discloses their income or kind of represents themselves in the best way, right? Actually, that's not true. Some people exaggerate. So you'll have those situations. And then some people don't think of things, in terms of gross income, right? They might be representing net. Maybe they're forgetting about the child support that they're receiving, the child tax benefit. So ask them those questions, dig a little bit deeper and find out what their income is. So really writing down those things, are you familiar with the process? Have a little notepad next to your computer so that, yes, you can have a conversation with them. Are you familiar with the process? Great. That landlords are looking for a credit score of at least 700, and they need to see that you can afford the rent, which is 3 times the amount of the rent, right? Can we show that on the application? So just jot down however it is you want to say it so that you're not feeling uncomfortable with that conversation in the moment. So that's going to be step one, the pre-qualifying initial conversation. From there, you're going to want to send them an email, a follow-up email, because not everybody, let's face it, not everybody is going to put your name and phone number in their phone right away. So emailing them a rental application also hopefully has an email signature there that they can easily find your email again, find your name and number and call you back later on, or simply reply to the email if they are interested in seeing some properties. So following up with an email attaching the rental application. And I'm going to talk to you guys today about a rental guide, which I haven't talked about before. So we'll get into that. But before I do, I am getting some questions in the chat. So does child tax benefit is kind of income? Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I highly recommend. Be creative with your clients when you're talking to them on the phone. Ask them for all of the sources of income, right? And you can ask them, again, are you receiving child tax benefit? Are you receiving child support? Are you receiving, anything like that? Unfortunately, if they are on any kind of a government assistance that might be a little bit tricky. The income tends to be lower. It's trickier for landlords to accept, that type of income. So just know that. And if that's the situation, if that's who you're talking to, then, your initial conversation, as I said before, is going to determine whether or not you're going to work with them or not. And if you're not going to work with them, you want to make sure that you're still providing them with excellent customer service. They're calling Zolo, they're reaching you, right? So even though they're not qualified, just let them know, Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, those are 2 really great sources where landlords are posting their properties directly themselves. They're not using an agent. When they do work with agents, there's usually a higher set of criteria that they're looking for, qualifying criteria. So, if you're talking to somebody who has a lower credit score, lower income, then just let them know, what, I think your best bet is to find something on Facebook, and these are the reasons why, right? In terms of the follow-up email, does Zolo have a standard signature? Yeah, I believe so. If you look, I think there might be something on the Academy, but if you have an email from me, if you have an email from anybody at Zolo, we all kind of have our unique styles with our Zolo signatures. So if you want to reach out to me, I can send you what I have and you can tweak it and make it your own. But talk to other Zolo agents and see what their email signature looks like. And in terms of template, I don't know if we have it on the Academy, but I'll find out. And if we do, I will forward that to you. So we're going to be talking about that follow-up email. I'm going to share one with you right now, attaching that rental application. And then I'm going to share with you a rental guide, because here's the thing, in real estate, I'm sure that, for those of you who have just recently gotten licensed, you're probably thinking about a listing presentation, right? I remember that being kind of the focus when I started. And so you're jumping into the deep end, right? You want to have a listing presentation. You want to be ready to list properties. So you have that presentation ready, but what about a buyer's guide? And what about a renter's guide, right? There are so many reasons why you should be doing rentals, even when you are a seasoned agent. I know that I have some people in the room here today who do have experience, and this generates cash flow, right? So these lease leads, definitely you can get them done quickly. It generates cash flow. It builds your book of business, right? If they're not ready to buy now, then, hopefully they're ready to buy at the end of their 1-year term. So hopefully they think of you if you did a good job. So really think about treating these rental leads, these lease leads, just the same as you would a buyer lead, because you are talking to potential buyers. And as I said, as I started off this webinar, it is possible to convert lease leads right away into buyers. If you do have a client who is willing to provide an increased deposit, which is definitely something that is encouraged right now, because it is really competitive. Not only do you have to be qualified, but you may be wanting to offer an earlier start date, an increased rental amount, an increased deposit. So if you have a client who says, yeah, no problem, I'll pay the whole year up front, talk to them about buying. Hopefully you can convert that lease lead to a buyer. So following up with that email, I will talk about that next, because of course you want to get them to showings. So quick note about showings, definitely make sure that you are putting them onto your own MLS system. Yes, the Zolo bot is going to be sending them properties that match their search criteria, but the Zolo bot is sending them properties that match their search criteria based on their site behavior. So whatever it is that they're looking at on the website, those are going to be the emails that the Zolo bot is sending them. So it's better just to really fine tune that criteria, really, dig in a little bit and find out, how many bedrooms are you looking for? What's your max budget? Let's, set that up in MLS, and I'm going to be sending you listings in addition to, what you see on Zolo. So if there's anything that you don't see in my email and you find it online, just reach out to me and we can schedule showings. So you're sending a follow-up email and you're setting them up on a Treb search. So whatever your MLS system is, you're setting up a client portal or collab, whatever it is in your platform, you're sending them listings directly from your MLS system. So of course, eventually the goal is to prepare an offer to lease, which we'll talk about at the end. All right, so let me show you guys this email, because, and hopefully you guys can see it. If not, actually, we did just talk about the phone calls here, but the email, you will want to, of course, just reiterate what it was that you spoke about on the phone. So, them needing to get their credit score, their credit report, and you can send them links, which I'll show you here in a minute, as to where they can go to get that credit report. So Equifax, Credit Karma is free. And then of course you want to ask them for proof of income. That's something that they're going to need to compile, right? So this is all in your follow-up email. They're going to need their credit score, their credit report, proof of income, and you can put in brackets, that could be pay stubs, that could be your employment letter. If you're talking to somebody who is self-employed, you do have to get a little bit more creative. So you might want to ask them for a statement of business activities. So, different ideas around, self-employed individuals, but asking them for proof of income, right? In whatever form that comes in. And then of course you need a photo ID, because you want to make sure that you are representing who they say they are. So let's get to this email. So I apologize. I know if you are not on a computer screen, this is probably small, but I just want to give you guys an idea as to what you can include in a follow-up email. So this is after your initial phone call. This is after you've pre-qualified them. You know that they do have good credit, they have good income. So then you follow up and you send them an email, listing what it is that the landlords want, right? So the secret to grabbing the perfect home is being prepared in advance, right? So follow these 3 steps. Get a letter of employment, gather your pay stubs, get a credit history report, and complete your rental application, right? So you're asking them to compile all this information beforehand. So my practice isn't to, expect all this documentation before I've met them. I think that's premature. I can understand why a tenant wouldn't want to send you all of their personal information before meeting you and before even finding a property that they like. So my practice is to let them know what they need and then follow up with an email, just describing that again, reiterating what it was that you spoke about on the phone, and then providing them links as to where to go in order to gather that information, right? So of course, they'll have to gather their own pay stubs. Hopefully that's, hopefully they have that in an email somewhere, but letter of employment, hopefully they have that as well. It doesn't have to be both. So don't worry if you have a client who says, well, I can give you the last 3 months of pay stubs, but I've been employed for a few years now. My letter of employment is dated 2 years ago. Not required then, right? So pay stubs are sufficient. Ask them for their credit, not just their credit score, but their credit report. Sometimes you can get away with the credit score, but not always. So you just want to be anticipating, what objections are going to come from the listing agent, from the landlord, when you are submitting all of these documents on behalf of your client. Be as prepared as you possibly can, and present it in a really organized fashion. That's something else I'm going to share with you today, is an email to the listing agent, how to send the documents so that it is presented in a really organized fashion. So you can, of course, here, the whole purpose is to attach the rental application, and you can just attach it as a PDF, and then they can fill that out. So sometimes they might reply right back to you, and they might, send you that rental application fully completed. But again, just so you know, that's not typical. Typically speaking, people will submit the rental application to you once they do find a property that they like. So that's the email. So hopefully here we've covered the initial conversation, those pre-qualifying questions, and that follow-up email. Now, something I haven't talked about before in any of these sessions is having a renter's guide. And honestly, this was inspired by somebody on my team. So somebody who just started real estate, just started working with lease leads, and they compiled a really cool report. So basically all I did was use my buyer's guide, and I just turned it into a renter's guide. So this is going to assist you in informing and educating your client. If you treat these lease leads like you would a buyer lead, 100%, if they are ready to buy, they'll come back to you, right? You just have to be prepared and, be the knowledge broker. Always be providing information. That's how you show your value in real estate. It's not showing up to the showing and opening the door. That's one small piece. It's actually educating them on the entire process. So before I jump into that, let me know if you guys have any questions about that initial conversation or the follow-up email. Let me know. And while I'm waiting for that, I will try to switch my screen so that I can share with you guys the renter's guide. So let me know if you guys have questions. All right. So bear with me here. I'm just going to present this from the beginning. And sorry, my apologies. Usually I take away my personal information and I just have a sort of Zolo standard, but I didn't have time today. So you'll see my name on this, but of course you can replace that with your own information. Vishnu, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Jane. Good afternoon. Jane, just wondering if somebody doesn't have a perfect credit score. So does that mean that the person won't be able to lease or buy, or is there any leeway in that?
Yeah, so if you have somebody with less than a perfect credit score, and you know what, it is possible to help people who have a lower credit score, but ideally you don't want it to be less than 650. That's just going to be challenging, and it's going to be challenging for you to be doing a bunch of showings, writing a bunch of offers that eventually don't get accepted. So my recommendation is that if they don't have, I mean, nobody has a perfect score. Very rarely do we see that. But if they have a lower score, then you might just want to refer them to Facebook or Kijiji.
I get it. So most of the time, the leads which we are going to get it would be qualified leads and would be having 650 and above, or I'm talking about from the hindsight scenario. If the things are happening in a right direction, then of course, 650 is a great one, and then we can do the leases. But most of the time, is it 650 or is it less than 650 when the leads come into us?
Yeah, so at Zolo, you are getting live inquiries on the website. So we don't pre-qualify them for you. We don't scrub the leads, I guess is the terminology. So,
Okay.
Just know that you're going to be having conversations. And this is why, I'm stressing the importance of asking these questions, because they're not going to come to you ready to go, super qualified. Like, you do have to kind of work through the leads that you get, because they're just live internet leads, right? They're browsing the website, they're looking at properties. So yeah, you do have to pre-qualify them. And just a note as well about what they're inquiring about. This was something that Ronnie suggested to his team, which I agree with. If the lease lead is sort of like lower end, less than $2,500 a month, then, those are the ones that you have to kind of pre-qualify harder. If you have a lease lead who's looking at maybe a property for $5,000, you can assume that their income is higher. So you still want to pre-qualify them, but, it might be a little bit of a, gentler conversation, not as, yeah. not as thorough, I guess.
All right. So 650 is my benchmark. No matter what, I shouldn't be taking below 650. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And I should be spending more productive time with 650 and above.
Yes.
Excellent. Sorry. On the same note, Jane, most of the time, what happens, the leads do not get closed. If the typical scenario is you need to have 1.5 months rent or 1 month's rent in advance, right? But I've been seeing on the Facebook chats or WhatsApp chats that the leads are not getting converted into confirmed business unless they are making a payment of 24 months or say 12 months of advance payment. Is that normal, or is that the bubble which is happening right now?
Yeah, so so great questions. So if a lease lead is, has a really, really high credit score, like let's say we're talking like, 800 in that range, then, you can kind of rely on that credit score. Like you have a really qualified tenant, maybe they offer first and last month, right? That's the minimum requirement, first and last month's rent. But if you have somebody who's maybe, 700, low sevens, 675 even, you're probably going to be up against another applicant, right? The lease market is really competitive. There's multiple people applying for properties. So if you know that, it's likely that somebody else might have a better credit score than your client, maybe you offset that by providing a greater deposit. So instead of first and last, you're going to say, my client is willing to offer first and last 3 months, right?
All right.
Or last 5 months, whatever the situation is. And then that way the landlord can kind of keep that as security that they are going to pay, right? Because their credit score is not as high, as they would like it to be. It's still good, but not as high. So you can kind of offset those situations with an increased deposit.
And this information I'll only come to know when I speak to the seller agent, right?
Yes. And actually, thanks for saying that, because this is another thing, that you should always keep in mind. What works with one client and one landlord may not work with another landlord, right? Landlords aren't like banks, right? It's not like you're going in for a mortgage pre-approval where there's set qualifying criteria. Every landlord is different. And so you don't really know until you talk to the listing agent. So you might want to actually even call the listing agent before you even take a client out to see that property, especially if you have a situation, maybe for example, they're new to Canada. Is that something that the landlord will consider, right? Sometimes landlords want to see stability, history in Canada, credit score from Canada, not the States or somewhere else. So just take that extra step and call the listing agent to find out what that particular landlord is looking for.
Fantastic. So communication is the key with the agent to know what information you can get.
Is key.
And that's how then you float around all the details to your lease person. All right. Excellent. Thank you, Jane. Thanks.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. That's great. All right, so I'm going to share with you here, so this renter's guide. So you can share this in a few different ways. You can create something like this. Again, this is just my example. And you can share it as a PDF that you attach to your email. So you're sending out that follow-up email with the rental application, and you've got this renter's guide that you can share as a PDF. I like to be a little bit fancier. I like to suggest, that you really use the tools that are available. And these are free tools, by the way. I always like to recommend things that are free. So you can create a renter's guide like this. I've used Canva, which is a free platform. Again, I can share this template with you guys so that you can copy it and just tweak it, change the photos and your contact information. So I'm using Canva to create this particular guide. And then I'm presenting it to you right now in Canva, but you can create a sort of a magazine style PDF, and you can upload it to something called Flip Snack. And so basically that converts your PDFs into a magazine style. So it literally feels like you're flipping the pages of a magazine. And then you could attach that as a link in your follow-up email. So now your email has the rental application and a link to your renter's guide that they can literally flip through, right? So, realtors have a whole bunch of marketing materials and feature sheets, and we do all that stuff, and it's expensive to get it printed. Right now we're living in a virtual world, so let's take advantage of that and create things that do make an impression. And really, it's free. So Flip Snack, you're able to upload 2 PDFs for free, and you can create something like this. So yeah, absolutely. I'm going to send can you share in text how to make a rental guide? Yeah. So Canva is what I use for the design of this. And then I upload it to something called Flip Snack. And as I said, you can upload 2 PDFs for free. you can copy and paste that link into every single follow-up email that you have after you've spoken to a rental, a lease lead. So let's just flip through this quickly, just so you have an idea as to what I've done. And really the whole purpose of this, my main purpose in recommending something like this, is that it just, again, reiterates the process, right? So you want to be always educating your clients. The more you educate them, the more they're going to trust you. And really, people work with people that they like, know, and trust. So this is starting to build that trust, right? Even if you've never done a lease deal before, or maybe you've done one or two, this is going to make you seem like, you know, an expert in leases, right? Because you've got your materials, you've got, you're educating them. So let's just flip through this. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but let me just check the chat one more time. Oh, sorry. So I think I didn't send that to everyone. Canva, I'll just write that in there. So it's CANVA. And then the other one is Flip Snack that I'm recommending. So I'm presenting this to you right now in Canva. So hopefully you guys can all see the renter's guide. So let's just go ahead and just flip it open. So, dear future tenant, thank you for choosing me. You have a nice little intro. You might have, something about yourself, what your mission is, what your promise is to each and every client that you work with, whatever it is. My mission is to earn your business, whatever it is. Introduce yourself so that they get to know you maybe on a more personal level, and not just the fact that you're a realtor, somebody that they called online. Introduce yourself, throw a family photo in there, let them know your background, maybe what you did before real estate. So again, you don't have to be including, I've done all these leases. It's more about them getting to know you, right? Liking you, knowing you, and trusting you. So a couple of things here that I really like to include, of course, is information on Zolo, because, why should they choose you? Why should they choose Zolo? Of course, they're already on the Zolo website. They're already familiar with it. They're already looking at properties online. And of course, on the Zolo website, they can find properties that are listed on multiple real estate boards. They probably don't even realize that that's happening, but they have access to all of the listings that are available. So not just, listings for lease on Treb, but also listings for lease on Omdreb and Rab and all the different wonderful boards that we have in Toronto. So, Zolo.ca is Canada's leading tech-powered brokerage. We're the #1 real estate app in Canada. So basically, you're just letting them know what they already know, right? They're already users of the Zolo site. So basically, you're letting them know that yes, you can find all MLS listings for rent on Zolo. And sure, we have, millions of visitors every month, but really they already know the Zolo website. So you're just kind of reiterating what they already know. But what I really like here is that you kind of copy the same format and you talk about the renter's roadmap. So this is something that I talk about when you're working with buyers, when you're working with sellers. You really have to educate them on the process. And you know what, actually, honestly, the rental process is a little bit more involved for you, definitely, as a realtor, because you're wearing all the different hats, right? You're the mortgage broker, essentially, pre-qualifying the tenant. You're the realtor doing the showings. And then you're also the lawyer at the end, exchanging. Of course, you're doing the contracts as a realtor, but then you're also doing the closing later on. So lots of different things to keep in mind when you're working with lease leads. So set it up. And even if it's just this one page that you use, maybe you don't even have a renter's guide, but you have a renter's roadmap that you attach to your follow-up email. And here we go. 8 steps: complete your rental application, provide documents. So again, reiterating what you already said, on the phone, in your follow-up email. Yes, they are providing their credit score. They're providing proof of income. You're searching for homes. You're making an offer. It's your role to negotiate that offer. And then what happens? They have to deliver their deposit, right? Which is typically first and last month's rent. You don't want that to come as a surprise. You don't want them to say, okay, yeah, we can afford $2,500 a month, but we didn't know we needed first and last month's rent. We don't have $5,000 available. So this should be part of your initial conversation, right? And including it in your renter's roadmap is something that, again, if you've forgotten to say it a couple of times, it's in there for you. Once their offer has been accepted, they've provided their deposit, they also need to obtain tenant's insurance. They need to transfer utilities into their names, right? And then, of course, on closing day, there's usually, post-dated checks and keys that get exchanged. And so, even if this is the only page that you use, this is something that you can include in your follow-up email, and maybe something that you bring with you to your showing so that you can talk to them about each of these steps, right? getting in tenants insurance, where to go for that. Again, you're going to be providing information. The utilities, who do they call for that? Exchanging keys and checks, how is that going to work? I mean, right now with COVID, I've seen a lot of contactless, I lost the word there for a second, contactless exchanges. So they may keep the lockbox on the property so that, when everything is ready, when things close, essentially, the first of the month comes around, then they can access the keys to the property by accessing the lockbox. So they'll have the lockbox code just as they would if they were purchasing a property. They can access the keys from the lockbox code there. And maybe you have organized with the listing agent how they're going to deliver post-dated checks beforehand, right? Maybe they're dropping them off at the property in the mailbox and the landlord goes and picks it up later on, right? So we're having to be a little bit creative right now in these times, but that's how I've been kind of watching it unfold lately. So let me see what comments you have in the chat for me. Yes, I can definitely send you this email. Oh goodness. Okay, can you guys see the guide? Let me know if you can see the roadmap that I've been talking about here. Hopefully you can. Okay, good. Okay. Sorry, Habib, not sure why that's not working for you. Okay, good. I'm glad that I wasn't just talking about a black screen. Okay, so let me know if you guys have any questions or comments about this. Okay, good. Thanks for confirming you guys can see it. So a renter's roadmap, just like a buyer's roadmap, just like a seller's roadmap, provides information. Everybody knows what to expect. And that's really the key thing. You know that you have done your job well if there are no surprises along the way, right? Your client knows that they have to deliver first and last, or if they've offered more, they know that, they're ready. So definitely there's no surprises along the way. So just informing them. All right, Himad, hello. I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, Jen. Yeah, I have a quick question. I have two questions.
Sure.
The first one is like whenever any client call regarding any property lease. So usually, like normally, I go to the MLS and check it out all these information. So is it a good is it a quick response? In order to give a quick response, is it okay if I go to the Zolo website and pull out the information from there and answer their question, or you let me, like you suggest like it's better to go MLS and answer their question?
Yeah, I definitely recommend having your MLS system open when you're replying to leads or when you're speaking to them, because oftentimes they're going to ask you for information that's not available on Zolo. And one of those things is probably going to be the possession date. I think that's probably the most asked question when you're dealing with lease leads, because that information is not available online. So that's your opportunity to not only provide the information, let them know this particular property is available immediately, or it's available July 1st, whatever the situation is, you let them know. And then from there, are you interested in the property? Would you like to take a look? Are you familiar with the process? And then you pre-qualify, right? So I would definitely recommend having the MLS information in front of you, because that's probably going to, enable you to answer their questions. They know what's on Zolo already. So yeah, just have your MLS system open.
Yeah, but in case like most of the time, if I'm on the go and the MLS is not available at that time, is it okay like I go quickly to the Zolo and provide the information, initial information you mean, and then detailed information? If they ask like additional question, then I'll go, like I'll tell them like, okay, I'll get back to you like your question, once I will be going home, or I'm in the meeting right now, something like that, and go back again and provide the detailed information later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're not always in front of our computers. So yeah, absolutely. If you're on the road, it is better to at least talk to the lead, right? So they know that they have reached a real life realtor, right? So definitely,
so, yeah, my question
yes,
was,
have a conversation.
Sorry. My question was just like, like the Zolo website, if I go there, so the information is accurate. Like, I mean, sometime if the property is already leased, so is it updated there? I mean, or no, like it is no more available, if the property is leased, then it is taken, because sometime if I provide the information and later on find out, oh, okay, property is leased, then it's kind of, gap, I mean, it does not give the good impression to the client.
Yeah, so you're right. My recommendation is to have the MLS listing open. That's not always possible if you are on the road. So yes, you can open the Zolo app, look at the property that they're inquiring about. You can make some, uh, educated guesses maybe. Like if you see that the property has only just been listed one day ago and they're asking if it's still available, you can say, it looks like it's still available, but I'm not on my computer at the moment. Let me just double check, right? If it has been listed for longer than a day. But you can make some safe assumptions there if it has only been a day. Yes, it's still available. When would you like to take a look? Right? Are you familiar with the process? So you can kind of have that conversation. But yeah, you can use the Zolo app for information, but just know that they have that information. So, you might just want to let them know I'm driving. I'll be back at my computer and I can confirm everything, in about an hour or so. And then just make sure that you're calling them within that time frame.
Yeah, my second question was like, if suppose like they sign the lease for 12 months, 1 year lease. So before expiring the lease, do the tenant has to give, because sometimes they ask like they have to give any 60 days notice if they will be vacant, or or it will be converted to month and then they are okay, like anytime they can leave or something. So what's the probable answer for this?
Yeah, so you know what? That's a great point. So definitely find out what your client's timeline is, because you're not going to prioritize people who haven't given their 60 days notice, right? If you look online right now, it's June 1st today. So we don't have inventory for September right now. So just let them know that, if they are looking, if they are serious, they need to be kind of like a month or two, not like, they can't find something now and then provide 60 days notice. Just, it's going to be too far into the future. And what's available now is available now. So just let them know that. And again, yeah, if their timeline is not really realistic or anytime soon, then that's somebody that you wouldn't, necessarily, you could work with them down the road, but just let them know inventory isn't available right now for their time frame. So that's definitely something that you want to include in your initial conversation when they're looking, right? And make sure that it's realistic with what's available.
Yeah, but my question was like, if they sign it lease, if they sign already, okay, and sometimes their question is like, if it is 1 year lease, so suppose like they leased it from June, and next year in May 31st, and their lease is going to be expired, right?
Yep.
So before that, they have to give like 2 months notice if they need to vacate the property, or it is okay, like they can leave the property after 1 year.
Yeah, so they would have to provide 60 days notice if their intention is to leave in exactly 1 year. Otherwise, it does convert to month, and then they can stay. Sometimes a landlord may ask them to sign another 1 year term or 2 year term. But typically speaking, once that 1 year lease has expired, it does just convert to month.
Okay, and if it convert to month, just 1 month, like the 1 month notice is okay, or how does it work, like in month to month?
Yeah, they would have to provide 60 days notice always in
Again,
all
okay,
cases.
or
Yeah.
in all cases, okay,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right.
And
Okay, so question here. Are there properties that are on Zolo but not on MLS or vice versa? So yes and no. So anything that is on Zolo is on MLS, right? The reason why I say maybe not is because it might not be on Toronto's MLS, right? So you might see it on Zolo, but you can't find it in Treb. That doesn't mean that it's not listed on MLS. It's just not a Treb listing. If you ever want to know what board it's listed on, just find the property on Realtor.ca. You can scroll all the way down to the very bottom, and in tiny writing, it tells you that the information is being pulled from Omdreb or RAB or another board. So maybe if you're not a member of that board, you're going to assume that it's not on MLS, but it is. It's just not on the system that you subscribe to. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. Okay, so yeah, so I'll just breeze through the rest of this renter's guide. So hopefully this is something that you implement, because again, this is going to be a tool that helps you in educating the clients. So you can include a roadmap, you can include documents. I mean, how great would this be? As we all know, these documents are pages and pages and pages long. They're very legally worded. It kind of feels like, when you're leasing a property, you're almost signing your life away. So, maybe including in a renter's guide an explanation on each of these forms, right? What is the agreement to lease? What's the confirmation of co-op? Who pays the commission, right? Do they have to pay anything? That's a question that comes up. So if you have it in a renter's guide, hopefully it's something that they look at. Tenant representation agreement, what does that mean? Working with a realtor, what's that all about? So in addition to this, you can even include the explained forms. If you go to the OREA website, you can download the agreement to lease, the confirmation of co-op, and there is writing in red that explains each and every paragraph. So again, this is you educating your client. Even though this is a lease lead, treat them as if they are a buyer, because when they're ready to buy, they're going to want to know this information the way you've presented it to them when they were renting. They want you to do the same thing when they're ready to buy. So this is just, showing them how you work. So yeah, having a page in there about the documents that are going to be used, again, maybe attaching the explained forms, that's a good idea. And then definitions. What is a deposit? What are our conditions? Typically speaking, with lease leads, or offers to lease, we don't have a lot of conditions. We don't have any conditions usually. It's usually the landlord that might come back with conditional on the landlord verifying the creditworthiness of the tenant, right? And they may want a day or 2 or 3. If they're asking for too many days, then, push back, don't be afraid to push back and just say, you know what, can we get these conditions done in a day or so that, your client, if the landlord isn't going to want to work with them, your client is free to find something else. What does closing and possession date mean? That's usually the same day. So, that's their move-in day basically. So, educating them on the process and providing some sort of a guide like this, I think helps you do your job. All right. Okay. So let me know if you guys have any other questions. I'm going to flip back to my presentation. Let me see how I do that now. And let me know if you have any questions in the meantime while I'm doing this. All right, so I think I'll have to start the slides from the beginning, but that's okay, we can get there. All right, so let me know if you have questions so far. So we've really talked a lot right now about pre-qualifying and really preparing your clients. So we've talked about that initial phone call. We've talked about that follow-up email. So let's get to the nitty-gritty here. So we'll end it with this. So leases. Once you do find them a property that they are interested in leasing, because of course that's what happens next, right? You've prepared them. That's what we talked about this entire webinar today. And then you will take them out on showings. And hopefully they do find something that they like, right? Some clients are going to be easier than others. Hopefully you don't have to show them more than 3 to 4 properties over the course of 1 or 2 days of showings, right? Hopefully their timeline is immediate. They do have to move. So hopefully you are able to, find them something quite quickly and get those lease deals done as quickly as possible. So once they do find something, then, you're going to need that rental application completed and returned to you with their credit score and their proof of income. I'll tell you right now, what I like to do is I like to organize this. I suggest that you take the rental application kind of as your cover page and you merge it with all of their supporting documents. If they're sending you photos of their ID and, screenshots of this and PDFs of that, you're going to have to convert everything to a PDF and merge it into a rental application and supporting documents file. So all one document, because that's going to be really easy when you present it to the listing agent. It's going to be all together, rental application, supporting documents for them to look at first, right? And if the listing agent likes what they see, the landlord likes what they see, the credit score is good, the proof of income is there, then they can take a look at your separate PDF, which is going to include your agreement to lease, your confirmation of co-op, right? Maybe even your residential tenancy agreement, so that they can accept your offer and return it back to you. So let's talk a little bit about this. The rental application, all their supporting documents, that's separate. You will have to prepare when you go to web forms, which we will do tomorrow. We'll do this live. You will prepare an offer to lease, which includes the agreement to lease with the attached schedules and the confirmation of co-op. So that's actually what forms your offer to lease. You do also have the tenant representation agreement and working with a realtor, and that's between you and your client. You need those documents in order to prepare the offer to lease. It's usually done all at once because, again, lease leads, we're converting them quickly to showings, we're converting them quickly to deals written. So we're not typically asking them to sign the representation agreement or working with a realtor at the beginning of our working relationship, because you probably are going to be writing an offer hopefully in a day or 2 after showing them properties. So you have those documents, which you do not send to the listing agent, by the way. That does not form part of your offer to lease. Your offer to lease consists of your agreement to lease and confirmation of co-op. So now, ideally, you have 2 PDFs. The rental application with your supporting documents, and you've merged the agreement to lease with the schedules and the confirmation of co-op. Sometimes they ask for an 801. It's not required for leases, but if they ask for it, give it to them. Once the offer has been accepted, I'm going to share with you, before I really transition here, I'm going to share with you guys an email presenting the rental application and the offer to lease to the listing agent. So I'll share that with you in a second. And then once that does get accepted, which hopefully it does, then you can prepare the residential tenancy agreement. Keep in mind the residential tenancy agreement should really be prepared by the landlord, meaning the listing agent, but that doesn't always happen. And you might even want to say in your email when you're presenting the offer that you'll prepare the residential tenancy agreement. It shows that, hey, not only are my clients super qualified, but I'm really easy to work with. I'll do this piece of paperwork for everybody, right? So it might just increase your chances of getting that offer accepted. And then last but not least, of course, once the offer is accepted, hopefully you have another email that goes out to your tenant with, congratulations, here's a copy of your accepted offer, and here are the things you need to do next. You need to deliver your deposit, you need to get tenant's insurance, you need utilities, you need to write your post-dated checks, right? So there's a lot of pieces when you're working with leases. So, make sure that you do have that another email for your tenant after the offer has been accepted. But before we can get to that, of course, we need to present this offer to the listing agent. So let's take a look at that email. And that I think will be the last thing I show you here today. All right, so let me just go over this quickly. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is you're sending in the offer to lease to the listing agent. I am pleased to present an offer on behalf of my clients, so-and-so and so-and-so. They're sisters and they both have good credit and employment, or they're both professional, employed engineers, whatever it is. This is where you get to be creative, right? This is where your creative writing skills come into play. So represent your clients as best as possible. I like to recommend throwing in a family photo if your clients are comfortable with that. Again, everything is virtual right now, so we want to make it as real life as possible. This is, you're presenting an offer to lease, but a landlord is making a decision on who they're going to have in their home, who they're going to have to be dealing with as tenants, for a year, two, maybe more. So, introduce them virtually, attach a photo. Photo is worth 1,000 words, right? So if your clients aren't comfortable with that, then just be as creative as you possibly can. Letting them know who they are, why they're moving, what their motivation is, why they love the house. Again, be as creative as possible. But what I really wanted to focus on here was, how do you set this up? Do you just attach everything? So I have seen situations where agents will just attach, they'll send an email to the listing agent, please see attached offer, or not even that. And then it's a whole bunch of, there's the rental application, a whole bunch of different types of files with their supporting documents. The offer is buried in there somewhere. So again, I recommend having those 2 PDFs, but then I also recommend setting it up, laying it out, describing what they're going to see in those documents. So they don't even have to open the documents. It's all perfectly laid out for them. So the first section is going to say, I'm attaching the rental application with supporting documents, and then identify what it is that they're going to see in that package. The rental application, of course, right? And then you're going to have, applicant number 1's credit score and credit report. I'm not going to keep them in suspense because I'm really proud of my clients. They're super qualified. So I'm going to put in brackets, their credit score is 765, right? I'm also attaching applicant number 1's employment letter. And here in brackets, I'm going to say, this is what she does and this is what she makes, right? I'm also attaching pay stubs. In addition to that, you can see applicant number 2's credit score and credit report, and then you put in brackets their score. You mentioned their employment letter, where they're working, what they're earning, and then their pay stubs. So again, you don't need to have both. You don't need to have both the employment letter and pay stubs. This is an example where, you have both. So once you have set up or described what they're going to see in the rental application and supporting documents, then you say, additionally, you will see in their offer to lease that they are offering, and then you lay it out for them. April 1st, 1 year, $3,000, lease deposit is $6,000, first and last month's rent, and then also let the agent know, hey, you have until midnight tonight, please, to accept this offer. And then you can see here, if the offer is accepted, I can prepare the residential tenancy agreement. Again, it's just a nice thing to do. It might give your, clients a competitive advantage. So, this is kind of a nice way to set up an offer letter. So back in the day, offers would get presented in person. I'm sure those agents didn't show up at a listing agent's office and just dropped off an offer and then walked out the door. There was probably some discussion about who the clients are. So pretend you're live and in person doing a presentation and set it up in your email that way. These are my clients. This is what they make. This is what they do. You know, here's the offer. This is what they're, you know, offering. This is the deposit, and this is how long my offer, you know, is valid for. So, you know, please accept it before today at midnight. Whew, so there you go. So there is the offer email, and then I have some questions coming in. Okay. Do listing agents, brokers need to tell buyer agent if they have offers, as in actual buy of a property? So yeah, yes, if they have another offer to lease submitted on their property, they should be telling you that they have an offer. They don't always get registered the same way buyer offers do. So what I would suggest is always, not only before you show the property, but even before you're about to prepare an offer, reach out to the listing agent, right? Reach out to the listing agent before the showing to make sure that the landlord will consider your clients based on their situation. And then follow up with the listing agent again when you're about to prepare an offer, just to make sure an offer hasn't already been accepted or received that they're considering, right? You don't want to take 2 hours preparing this offer and then, oh, sorry, it's been leased. So yes, communication is key. Definitely reach out to the listing agent. Second question here, can the tenant drop the first and last month's rent to the listing agent's office? Reach out to the listing agent and find out. Right now with COVID, obviously that used to be a thing, and in some cases it still is, but we're being encouraged more and more to actually drop off deposit checks at the bank. So you'll get deposit instructions from the listing agent. So just reach out to the listing agent to find out what they prefer. All right, let me know if I missed anything. Let me just scroll up and see. Okay, perfect. Let me see what else I have here to present. Yeah, so we'll just end it there. I did talk about, you know, why should we be doing leases? And I did mention, of course, cash flow. I did talk about, you know, growing your book of business. What I didn't mention is, of course, that, you know, it does keep you active. So it's something that you can, you know, generate activity in your CRM, updating all of your activities there. So again, the Zolo bot keeps sending you leads. Yeah, definitely it familiarizes yourself with the paperwork. If you've done a bunch of leases, the buyer transaction will seem like a walk in the park. So there's lots to do with leases. All right, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stop my share. And I'd love to hear from you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, situations that you've come across that you're not sure how to handle. We do have a few more minutes, I believe. Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes. So let me know if you have any questions. But I did focus today a lot on the pre-qualifying, the setting up of your relationship with tenants. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. We will be talking about an offer to lease tomorrow. So join me for that, and we'll actually be walking through the paperwork. So doubled up with today and tomorrow, you'll be lease pros. I promise. That's my goal. Yes, I can absolutely share the template, the Canva template, renter's guide. Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll post it right now in the workplace group, so I don't forget, and you'll see it there. So thanks so much, you guys. That was great. That was fun. Thank you for your interaction, and I will see you guys tomorrow on web forms, preparing that mock offer to lease to get you guys started. My pleasure. Awesome. See you guys on the next webinar. Have a great day, everybody.